Hi, I'm Blade.
And I'm Dan.
And this is our reptile collection.
Hi, thank you for joining us. My name is Cassandra Maderas, and today we're going to be speaking with Blythe DeRoche and Dan Ryan. And we're going to be taking a look at some of the lizards that they have and what it's like to own such a wide variety. How many reptiles do you guys have?
So in total we have 14 reptiles, but amongst that we have 7 different species. We have a hognose snake, we also have a Schneider skink, we have 9 leopard geckos. 2 of those are supergiant leopard geckos, which is a different variation of the leopard gecko species. Then up top we have 2 crested geckos, we have a gargoyle gecko, we have an iridactylode, and we have a Chinese cave gecko. Our iridactylode, our crested geckos, and our gargoyle gecko are all from the same island, New Caledonia. We have the desert dwellers on the bottom, and we have the rainforest dwellers up top.
What would be an easy lizard for a beginner lizard owner?
Beginner would probably want one of the leopard geckos because they have an easy diet. You give them about 20 worms a week and you can handle them very easily. They don't really run as fast as the other species, and the species that are from New Caledonia tend to leap the crested geckos and the gargoyles, so I wouldn't recommend them for a younger kid.
One thing you definitely want to keep in mind while handling your leopard gecko is their tails can fall off. If a predator is trying to eat one of these geckos and grabs them by their rear end, the tail, they can detach it from their body and run away, so they end up not getting killed by the predator. They actually grow the tail back. It'll never be the same length. It'll probably be about that big. You know, if you're lucky, definitely try to not stress your gecko out as much as possible, because if they're in a very stressed environment, they can end up losing it. Say a child is trying to pick it up by the tail, never pick it up by its tail. You want to be pretty fast about the motions you make while grabbing them from the tank. If you lollygag and try to pick it up but you don't actually do it, it can, make the gecko more stressed out. You won't be able to grab them as quickly. But you want to just scoop right under them in one fast motion, pick them up, and they're more than comfortable being sturdy on your hand. It's just the act of grabbing them they might be a little scared about. They love being rubbed on their back. They're super social animals if you tame it. I mean, if you don't touch it for years after you buy it, you can't expect it to be the most friendliest gecko you own. But if you take the time, couple times a week, you want to give it a little space when it's a juvenile, because they are babies, they've been through a lot, they're probably a little stressed out. You want to give it some time, but as they get older you can handle them more, and they're perfect animals to just hang out with and do whatever you want. So this is Zeus. He has a bold stripe gene. You can see the stripe going down him completely. So he's a super giant. He's very large. He's still a baby, believe it or not. He has a lot more growing to do. We actually have a breeding pair for these 2. Our other super giant is down here. She has a roommate. Hopefully when the 2 super giants come together, she will still want to have a roommate afterwards,
Oh, we have another one about the shed.
Oh, awesome.
So that's
Speaking of shedding, what is shedding?
So as you can see, those 2 geckos are completely different colored. That's not just because they're 2 different types of leopard geckos, but you can see this one is not about to shed. She's very light, very prominent coloration, whereas this gecko that's about to shed is very dull. You can see that her skin is just, getting drier and drier on top, which is part of the shedding process. It's completely natural. It actually means that they're growing, which is very awesome in the winter months because during the winter they tend to eat less, so they grow slower.
Using insect
Alright,
candy.
so we're actually trying to grow our crested geckos and gargoyle gecko as quickly as possible so we can use them in our breeding project. So we're using the with insects to feed them today. We're going to need to use a little cup, something to stir it with, some water. That's our spray bottle. So you want to put some of that in the little cuppy. It's a 2 parts water, 1 part powder mixture. So you have to definitely make sure that it's wet enough. We also give the geckos live crickets. We throw probably around 5 to 10 in a week just so they can get the enrichment experience.
So we get live crickets from Petco or PetSmart about twice a week. We got about 100 of them. So we grab crickets with the tongs and then we hand feed them out. They're really tough to get a hold of, but once you get them, the geckos love them. Oh, as you can see, Draco loves his crickets.
These guys don't eat any fruit diet. They're straight carnivores, and they eat mealworms, superworms, waxworms, black soldier fly larvae. These are all mealworms. We usually throw about 25-30 in a week. Crickets also, a different thing about them besides the food is everyone from the desert realm needs a heat source so they can thrive. We want to keep the tanks in between 75 and 85 degrees every day. We have heat lamps on all the tanks for them so they can stay warm.
So basically this is what it's like owning little leopard gecko lizards and other creatures.
Thanks, guys.
No problem. Woo!